Good to see everybody. I'm going to put my sunglasses on. Welcome to today's Midday Live. And happy to have everybody with you, or with me. Let me know where you're watching from. Of course, as you know, YouTube takes a few minutes to get people in here, so we're going to take our time getting people in here. We're going to update you on a few things with Charles Randall and his recent trip to Africa. Hey, Crystal from Georgia. Martin, Tennessee. I've never heard of Martin, Tennessee. Good to have you. So it's good to have everybody. Right now, there is a little bit of breaking news. There's a lot of activity at Solid Rock Church right now. There are many cars at Solid Rock Church right now. That's why I'm a few minutes late getting on the live here. There's several cars at Solid Rock Church. John Paul Miller is currently not there. He's in another location where right now, but there are a lot of cars at Solid Rock Church. We're just not quite sure what is going on right now. Is this a police thing? No, it's not. But for some reason, a bunch of people have met at Solid Rock Church right now as we speak. And if I get a message during this live, I may step away for a second to try and figure out what's going on. Is it anything important? I don't think so. But it is curious to see this many cars at Solid Rock midday on a Wednesday. Some breaking news. We're trying to identify the people that are there and exactly what's going on. We haven't seen this in quite a while. And so we haven't seen this really since they moved out things from Solid Rock Church the day that they closed and then magically reopened not long after that. So lots of activity right now at Solid Rock Church. We'll try and get more information as far as what's going on there and what there's some new faces we have not seen there. So yeah, the building that was sold, that's what's happening right now. The building that was sold, the original location of Solid Rock Church. That's what's happening right there, right now. So, that's where we're at in that. Now, Charles Randall has been in Africa. We've talked about that for the past few weeks, and Randall has returned. Randall has said some things during this trip to Africa that kind of raised some interesting flags for me. Randall actively told people on the trip that none of the funds being used to build, let me correct that. Randall allegedly said that none of the funds being used for that trip came from Solid Rock Church. That, according to multiple sources at the trip. Now, according to sources close to Jumba, Pastor Jumba has confirmed that none of the funds used on this last trip came from Solid Rock. That's interesting because Kristen Fazio was on this trip. Now, I find that very curious because here's a key point to that. John Paul was actively raising funds post-Micah death in the name of Micah for Africa. According to Jumba, this is from Jumba. Jumba says that he has not received any funds from John Paul Miller since Micah's death. Now, according to John Paul Miller, Miller told me specifically that all mission things regarding Africa goes through Randall. So, according to Jumba says he's not received any funds from John Paul Miller since Micah's death. According to Randall, he's telling multiple people that none of the funds used for this latest mission trip it came from Solid Rock. But according to John Paul Miller, we've seen him raise money for African missions. And John Paul Miller told me specifically that those funds and everything goes through Randall. So now we've got multiple stories here. So are we saying that John Paul Miller raised some funds that was designated to the African missions trip? And if so, why aren't those funds being used for the African missions trip? Why is Randall and Jumba telling people otherwise? So where are those funds? According to Randall and Jumba, not in Africa. Now, that is an interesting turn to the story. We now know that Randall, well, I say we now know. We've been told that Randall is back in Solid Rock. Not Solid Rock, but back in Myrtle Beach. I've been told by a source close to Randall that Randall has made the decision to stay away from John Paul Miller. That Randall is choosing to separate himself from John Paul Miller. That is curious because Randall has been by John Paul Miller's side since the death of Micah. I have gone back and will dive deeper into this tonight. Randall has spoken in the past. Randall has spoken quite a bit in the past, surprisingly, actually. And Randall says some things in those interviews, well, I'm just going to be honest, are outright lies. Outright lies. And we will address that. And there was one specific lie that I wanted to confirm. So I reached out to someone with direct knowledge of the situation of Charles Randall and Micah Miller. They said that is a lie. Now, let's be very clear. Micah trusted Randall. And according to multiple friends of Micah, matter of fact, her best friends, they say she realized that Randall turned on her. Micah had faith in Randall. Micah went to Randall. And Randall did nothing. Micah went to Randall with accusations of abuse, allegedly, and Randall did nothing. Now, we all know that. We've been told that since the beginning, but now it is becoming very clear as to what Micah knew, the details she knew. I mean, we've seen it in messages. We've seen it in from Micah herself of what she knew. We've heard it from friends. She went to Randall with these accusations, and Randall did nothing. And by the way, I'm going to share a bit of information with y'all. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Here we go. Y'all ready? Micah didn't want to raise money for Africa. Oh, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Keep listening. Keep listening. Micah didn't want to raise money for Africa. She wanted to raise money for Pakistan. And she began raising money for Pakistan. And she began raising money for the children in Pakistan. And allegedly, John Paul Miller and Wayne put a stop to it. Within weeks, they made her stop. And they made her raise money for Africa. And that's how the African missions got started. Now, why would anyone discourage Micah from raising money in Pakistan for Pakistani children? That'll be on a later episode. The truth is, I don't know. Well, no, I take it back. We know. But we're just going to wait, if you know what I mean. So that's how all this got started. Micah began raising money for Pakistan. She wanted to help the children in Pakistan. She began doing it. She began raising the money and was immediately uh, told to stop. And it was put to a stop by John Paul and Wayne Miller, allegedly. They then redirected her and said, if you're going to raise money, then you raise money for Africa and you do it through Charles Randall. Micah trusted Charles Randall. Micah trusted the vision. And that's exactly what they did. So that is really, really interesting. I've also spoken with multiple people, that when regards to the African mission trip, multiple people close to Micah, listen to this. I'm not joking. Listen to this. They were convinced Micah would not come back alive. And that's not just some person who knew Micah on the surface. I'm telling you, you have to trust where I've heard that from, that multiple people extremely close to the situation in Micah's life as to what was going on at that time, the African missions trip in October, they were fearful Micah would not come back alive. So where has Charles Randall been? Spent a lot of time in Africa. I can tell you this, her friends don't want her name on that building. If it has anything to do with Charles Randall, her friends don't want her name on that building. What was Micah sharing to make people believe that she would not come back from Africa alive? What was Micah telling people to make them believe that she was going to lose her life in Africa? What was people telling? What was people being told? And why did John Paul and Wayne Miller allegedly redirect her from raising money for Pakistani children? Christy's asking, can the family talk to Randall to get her name taken off? I don't think you understand. Nobody trusts Charles Randall. And his words that I'm going to share later tonight will prove that. His words that he spoke months ago that I'm going to share later tonight will show why you shouldn't trust Charles Randall, because he lied. Some of you are saying that JP wasn't on that trip in Africa, so what was she afraid of? I don't know. She was certainly afraid of something. But was Micah afraid to lose her life on that trip? Obviously not. Were others afraid that she would lose her life on that trip? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. So it's interesting that those who believe that are coming forward now. Those who believe that Micah was going to die in Africa are being very clear about that. And again, guys, these aren't people, I want to be clear, these aren't people that were just on the outside looking in saying, I've got a bad feeling about this. These are people with direct knowledge of what was going on. And so Jan brings up a great point. Pakistani people say that they did not receive any money. Yes, I'm aware of that. And that is a whole venture that that I have personally yet to get into. I know others have, but it, I found it extremely bizarre that Micah began raising money for Pakistan and was redirected, was told no, don't do that. But yet you read Wayne Miller's Facebook post, you probably should stop posting, Wayne. Just a little advice. You should probably, well, no, actually, take it back. For my enjoyment, please post. But because y'all can't keep up with your lies, you probably should stop. Wayne posts all the time asking for money. So why was he discouraging Micah in a very wealthy church who, according to JP, is bringing in $100,000 a month? Why are they discouraging Micah from raising money for children in Pakistan? Allegedly. Pretty in Pink says, doesn't Wayne have some Pakistani people with him right now? Wayne doesn't just have Pakistani people, he's adopting Pakistani adults. Yes, John Paul Miller has adoptive siblings. John Paul Miller has adoptive siblings from Pakistan. In South Carolina, you're allowed to adopt. No. Natasha is saying you mean sponsoring. No. No. Adopted. Adopted. Look it up. In South Carolina, an adult can be adopted by another adult. And it requires little to no paperwork. It is truly bizarre. And when we started doing family background checks of John Paul Miller, these weird names started popping up with the last name of Miller. Now we know about John Paul's brother, Patrick, and John Paul's sister, Lacey. But other names started popping up that did not make sense. And we could not find who their mother was, or if they're a half sibling from a different, affair or something like that. We just couldn't find it. And then we started realizing these people were from Pakistan and that they were legally adopted by Wayne Miller. You're all going to jail one day. You're all going to jail. Just telling y'all. See, Angela's saying, I don't think Angela needed to be restricted. Hold on. Well, sorry, Angela, if that was accidentally restricted. Shoot. Wanted to read that. Angela was saying, can you say that again? Angela was saying, I think, that her husband adopted her adult son. It is absolutely possible to have an adult adopted. And I looked up the laws in South Carolina when we found this, and it is very easy. It would be very, very easy for adults to be adopted in South Carolina. So it's Micah was raising money for Pakistan, was told to stop, and that's how the African missions got started. The timeline of Africa has never made sense to me. John Paul has spoken as if they built a school within months, and that's just never ever made sense to me. um, where we're just now learning that now they've just now broken ground. But if you go back and listen to the words of John Paul a year ago, he speaks as if the school is being built right now. Children are going to school within months. All that stuff. It never made sense. And that's when I started questioning the African timeline. It just doesn't make sense to me. The problem is Micah's gone. And Micah can't, because she was a driving force behind that, Micah can't provide clarity to the timeline. So it just... I don't know, y'all. Where in Africa? I want to say Jabruk. I think Jabruk is the main part. I have to go back and look. I don't think it's Kenya, Renee. It may, but I think Jabruk. And the African, I want you to, the April African mission trip was thrown together almost last minute. John Paul gave each traveler $2,000 to go. Each traveler is very interesting. They went, there was, and then Micah died. And Micah was very close to each person on that trip, even Kristen Fazio. She was very close to each person on that trip. And all of a sudden, they were sent away the week Micah died. And they got a message days before Micah's death: do not talk to Micah. Do not talk to her. And on their way back, they're in London, and they get a phone call that Micah had died. Has anyone from the church that went on the African trip in April come forward yet? I'll say a lot of people associated with the African mission trip has come forward. Both mission trips. I would say that. Are they moving to Africa? No. John Paul, you think John Paul is going to move to Africa? This man has actively told us that he does not like mission trips. He's literally said that from the pulpit. He has said he doesn't like mission trips, and he doesn't like hospital visits. He ain't going to Africa. Y'all think he's going to Africa to live in Africa? Psh. Yeah, he doesn't do mission trips. He literally doesn't like them. Yeah, Randall was not on the April trip. Don't you find that interesting? So let me get this straight. Randall, who was just there this past couple months, says that Solid Rock's not providing any funding for this at all, but yet it was Solid Rock that went on the trip without Randall in April, correct, right? Am I hearing that correctly? And according to multiple sources, each person was given $2,000 to go on the trip. They had to raise the funds for the rest of it, for their travel and hotel. $2,000. Good for y'all. I make $100,000 a month. Shut up. Anyways, so a last-minute trip thrown together for these people who are close to Micah to go on an African mission trip without Charles Randall. They come back and Micah is dead. Micah, who didn't even want to raise money for Africa, wanted to do something for Pakistan, but was told no and to stop immediately. Oh, Angel Pence says something. St. Delight's African mission page is the same as JP page, but has been up for years. That's interesting. I've not seen that. Angel, can you send that to me on my Facebook? That would be perfect. Again, those of you just joining, there's a lot of activity at Solid Rock Church today. Lots of cars there. The original building, the building that is being sold. Lots of activity at Solid Rock Church today. We're not quite sure what's going on. John Paul, from what I'm being told, is not there, but there are a lot of people at Solid Rock right now. Stephanie's saying there was only 4 cars. No, I've seen pictures. There was more than 4. Now, it may be only 4 now, but I saw pictures. There was more than 4 cars there about, I would say, 30, 45 minutes ago. So, oh yeah, Cynthia reminds me that it's my fault that the children were starving in Africa. That's what John Paul says. Even though I offered to raise tens of thousands of dollars for those children, I was told, hey, get me in charge, get me in contact with, I told John Paul, get me in contact with Pastor Jumba. I'll raise that money and we'll make sure no kid goes hungry. I was told I had to go through Randall. I was told by John Paul Miller, I cannot raise funds for Jumba. I have to go through Randall. I was told that. So, oh, I know she was. I know she was saying that in satire. It just reminded me that exactly what I was told. So, any questions for you guys? Appreciate y'all joining in. Hit the like button, hit that share button. Appreciate everybody for joining me. I landed, it's not till summertime. I can't wait to share with y'all. We'll see. I'm gonna provide. My goal for my channels is to, my theme is dedicated to telling your stories. That's what I've always done. And despite what people say, because of the details of this case, almost every video I do on this case gets flagged for content violations. And the reason why I say that is because we discuss that often. Even me doing that probably is going to violate this video. So I want to remind people, and I'm going to say this to you guys. I was famous before this case. It's not really fun. I was making good money before this case. And I don't understand the philosophy of, Robbie, you're staying on Micah Miller's case because you're just wanting to cash in. Go get a chiropractic adjustment with a person thumbs up your butt. How about that? I've landed a big guest in the summer. And I can't wait to have them on. It is a mega superstar. Like, well, I say mega super. I think they're a mega superstar. I got to be honest. I don't know much about them. I just know that I'm old, and I'm told by the young folks that this is a mega star by the young folks. My dedication is to tell people stories. And I was doing that before this case, and I'm going to do it after this case. But I'm not going to let this case rest. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Not going to let it happen. I don't care what y'all got to say about me. I would make a lot more money moving beyond this case than sticking with it. That's the truth. There's not much money. Well, I'll say this. My past 5 lives, 6 lives, I don't know, have been flagged for monetization violations because so I want you to lay on your stomachs. For those of you who got to talk, imagine chiropractors taking their 2 thumbs. I posted this on my TikTok. Taking their 2 thumbs, and they stick it up there, and they're going to give you a pelvic bone adjustment. That's what I want you to do. Okay? That's what I want you to do. So it's like this. And for many of you, it's already loose enough where it fit in there. 2 thumbs will fit perfectly and just go like that. I'm sure it feels amazing. Oh. Y'all got to go to my TikTok and see my video from this morning. It's just on my mind. It's a it's a chiropractic adjustment that is and I got questions. I got questions. Instagram thought that it was a inappropriate video. I was like, Instagram, it's not inappropriate. It's funny. He's not wearing gloves. Oh, not wearing gloves. Not good. Not good. I need someone to make me a shirt that says not good. That would be, I would love to do apparel with just my sayings. See, Elizabeth said it there. Not good. Not good. Chop wants me to react to his new song. Chop, what genre of music is it? Christy, if you have a legitimate t-shirt and hat business that listen, Christy, nothing against what I'm saying, what you do, but I am very picky in the quality of shirts and the stitching, and the fabric and the hats. I'm very, very picky. If I ever do it, I want it done right. So if you think you can do it right, send me a message on Facebook. We'll talk. But I want it done with excellence. I'm a type of person that I want things done with excellence. I want things done right. I don't want to sell people a shirt or anything like that, and they get it and they say, this is not what I thought it was. I can't stand that. And so Chomp says, mixed feelings freestyle. You send me a link, Chop, I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it, man. How old are you? Tell me how old you are. Because I'm sorry to hear that, hippie. I'm sorry to hear that about your friend. Well, Sharon, I got to come up with, so not good. Another one, but this shirt's already out there, so I don't know if it's copyrighted, but I like the breaking news. I don't care. That's what I like. Sorry to hear that, hippie. 26 years old. So again, tonight we're going to dive deeper into the words of Randall from several months ago. Chop says he's 24 out of Tennessee. Look, I appreciate young folks who are grinding. I appreciate young folks who are working hard to make it. I appreciate young folks, especially creative folks. I don't, Chop, I want you to understand, man, I've been in TV and film in some sort of way since I was 15 years old. I've been creating nonsense on video since I was a young teen. I grinded, man. I've been an announcer in sports since I was 18 years old. Or I take that back, since I was 20, I can't remember. 20, how old am I? Yeah, 20. Um, I, I I did so much stuff for free just to get my name out there, just to get a job. I worked extra hours every single week. And that's why my current wife, I knew she was going to be the one, because she saw the grind, she saw the work, and she spent a lot of nights by herself because she knew I was just grinding and working. When her and I got married, I had 5 jobs, 5 paying jobs. Not because we needed the money, but because I just wanted to grind and wanted to get my name out there, and I wanted to make it. And I made it. And I've worked in film and TV since for 20 years. And I love it. And just recently, in the past 3 to 4 years, it's exploded. I love telling people's stories. I love using my platform for good. I love bringing justice for good. I love helping folks. I love doing what I can. The struggle that I have now is I can't help everybody. And that's just the truth. I get hundreds and thousands of messages a day. Hundreds of those are people begging for help. And I just can't. And I just can't. That's the struggle now. And the reason why, partly, I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday. The reason why I'm dedicated to this case, because Micah's case, is because I believe when the FBI comes out with everything they find, and all is said and done, we can actually have momentum for real change in the state of South Carolina. I believe a massive network of abuse is going to be exposed. And there has to be laws put in place for change in South Carolina. And I won't stop until we see that change. So many people want to say it's just about Micah. Y'all don't understand. Like, it's not. It's not. Micah's the hero. She will be the hero until the end of time when it comes to this story. But there is so much more that has to change. Justice is coming for Micah. It's coming. You know, I still wear this, Justice for Micah. Haven't taken it off ever since I got it. It's coming. But then there has to be change, so it never happens again. And we have to wait right now. We have to wait for the FBI to come out and it all be told. Once it's told, then we can start to demand change. Then we can start to say, hey, look, according to the FBI, look what happened in your state. According to the FBI, look what was going on for decades. According to the FBI, look. You got Murdoch, and now you got this. Change has to happen. And so that's what I'm hoping for. And I see it as, I can't help everyone, but I can help a lot of people by focusing on this case, because it's going to save a lot of lives in the future. That's what I truly believe. And so I try to, you know, I truly believe that. I had this specific conversation yesterday about that very thing, what I just told you now, that ultimately this case, ultimately Micah is going to save a lot of lives. Micah is going to save a lot of lives. Unfortunately, she had to sacrifice hers. So, oh, I wish you wouldn't have deleted that. I was reading the troll there. Took credit for the troll before my amazing moderators got rid of it, as they're supposed to. Saying that, oh, I can view it. It says, I think you practice, Melinda DJ says, I think you practice too much enjoying listening to the sound of your own nonsense. Okay, give me an example of nonsense. Provide me an example of what I said that's nonsense. And you've rode skirt tails and took credit for their work. I've been taking credit for anybody's work. I don't know what the FBI is doing. They don't tell me. So how do I take credit for their work? I don't understand that. Like, someone explain that to me. How do I take credit for the FBI's work? I don't even know what they did. Y'all can go back and listen to every video that I've done. I've told you what I think they're doing. I've told you what I think is going to come. I've told you, based off the evidence that I know from witnesses that I've spoken to, who I think is going to jail. I've told you what I think JP is going to be charged with. And so if the FBI comes out and says, hey, we're charging them with all this stuff, I may say, see, told you. But it's not from the FBI. They didn't give me this. It's from my work. It's from me spending countless hours with people, listening to their stories. Oh, they don't. Some of y'all are saying, don't let them get to you, Robbie. They don't, I promise. I like to challenge them. For example, she said, you listen to your own nonsense. Okay, give me an example. Give me an example of nonsense. Give me an example. Give me one example of what I've said that's nonsense. Give me an example. I think Myrtle Beach SC News or whatever it is, you know, they were one of the first ones to say, we believe there's an FBI investigation. And I quickly, right behind them, said, there is an investigation. How did I know that? Not from the FBI. I said that multiple Jane Does are going to come forward. How did I know that? Not from the FBI. I found Mercy Church. And then I think True Sunlight, I can't remember. There was a lot happening at once. I think True Sunlight found Forge. I can't remember. And then I found My Tribute. And what else? Living Water. Oh, that's what it was. I think True Sunlight found Living Water. I found Mercy. Someone else may have found Forge, and then I found My Tribute. Yeah, see, I don't understand. It all, I love it. The more people working on it, man, I love it. But I found Mercy Church. And I found it because I've spent time with people who trust me. I spent time with people who see funds being transferred from Solid Rock to Mercy Church. And they meet me in a parking lot and they say, Robbie, you need to look into Mercy Church. And I said, what is Mercy Church? And they say, just trust me. So, taking credit for the FBI, I don't know how I do that because I don't have a clue of what they're doing. Why isn't the press getting into this as much as Murdaugh? Well, I think the press got into Murdaugh really after it was all done. I know things were being covered as it was happening, especially when his wife and son were killed. That really changed things in the connection. And then don't forget when he was shot in the, that really changed things. So a lot of that was happening as this case was going on. Right now, Micah is really the only one. We talk about the gobbles. We still can't find a connection there. But I think that's why. Murdaugh, lots of people started dying when the case became public, and that's what was crazy. And then after it was all done, it really came out. Sharon says, you're the ones that I watch because other channels jump around for views. I'm telling y'all, as someone who has almost 6 million followers, I would make more money moving on. I'm telling y'all. Telling you. Just trust me on that. Ugh. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Join me tonight. We'll dive into the words of Charles Randall. Yeah, Abby, yeah, I know what he says there. We'll dive into the words of Charles Randall. I'll call him out on a blatant lie that he says. And, yeah, start to question. Well, not start, but really start to really dive deep to why Micah was focused on Pakistan first and redirected to Africa. Love you guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. See you tonight.